Hello and welcome. Namaste from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The US Supreme Court is set to hear arguments later today over the legality of Donald Trump's tariffs, with implications for the global economy and a test for the limits of the president's powers. Trump urges Republican lawmakers to end the US Senate filibuster following key mayoral and gubernatorial losses, saying the federal government shutdown didn't hurt the Democrats as he had anticipated. The European Union strikes a last-minute deal on the bloc's next big emissions-cutting targets in time for next week's UN COP30 climate summit in Brazil, with deep concessions to reluctant member states. And India immerses in Guru Nanak Jayanti and Dev Deepavali festivities. President Murmu, Prime Minister Modi and other dignitaries extend greetings to the people on the auspicious day. Well, the US Supreme Court will hear arguments on Wednesday in a pair of challenges to President Donald Trump's power to impose sweeping tariffs on virtually all goods imported into the United States. The hearing marks the beginning of what could be the biggest battle yet in Trump's trade war, as the Supreme Court considers whether his use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act to impose duties was constitutional. Several businesses and 12 US states have challenged the tariffs. They argue that Trump overstepped his constitutional authority, noting that the power to levy taxes and tariffs traditionally lies with the Congress. 3 lower courts have already ruled against the administration, finding that the IEEPA does not explicitly grant the president the power to impose tariffs. But Trump has defended the administration's use of tariffs to balance global trade flows, citing years of high duties charged by other countries on US imports. He argued that his tariffs had increased US revenues and driven stock markets to a series of record highs. After hearing arguments on Wednesday, the US Supreme Court will have until June to make a decision, following a rigorous process of arguments and discussions on the case's merits. This will be followed by a vote amidst the judges. Now, Trump on Wednesday blamed kamikaze Democrats for the longest US government shutdown in history, which has now surpassed the 35-day record set during his first term. Speaking at a White House breakfast, Trump compared his opponents to Japanese kamikaze pilots, saying they'll take down the country if they have to. About 1.4 million federal workers, from air traffic controllers to park wardens, have been placed on enforced leave without pay or made to work for nothing. The Trump administration sounded the alarm Tuesday over turmoil at airports nationwide, worsening staff shortages, snarling airport lines and closing down sections of airspace. More than 60,000 air traffic controllers and Transport Security Administration officers are working without pay. Thanksgiving air travel, that's later in the month towards the end, is expected to set a new record this year. But the White House has warned that increasing absenteeism could mean chaos at check-in lines. Now, a political earthquake in America has unfolded as the Democrats pulled off a stunning trio of victories in the first major elections since Donald Trump's return to the White House. From the streets of New York City to the state houses of Virginia and New Jersey, voters delivered a loud and unmistakable message: change is in the air. DD India's Aarti Rana reports.
Wednesday brought in an entirely new political narrative for the Americans. Democratic candidates romping home in style, inflicting serious political damage to the grand old party. 2 states voted to choose women Democratic governors. In Virginia, history was made as Abigail Spanberger became the first woman to lead the state. The former CIA officer and moderate Democrat unseated Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin, restoring the governor's mansion to Democratic hands.
My fellow Virginians, tonight we sent a message. We sent a message to every corner of the Commonwealth. A message to our neighbors and our fellow Americans across the country. We sent a message to the whole world that in 2025, Virginia chose pragmatism over partisanship. We chose our Commonwealth over chaos. Leadership that will focus on problem solving, not stoking division. We chose leadership that will always put Virginia first.
In New Jersey, Democrat Mickey Sherrill prevailed in a fiercely fought race against Republican Jack Ciattarelli, continuing her party's winning streak in what became the most expensive governor's race in the state's history.
We see how clearly important liberty is. We know that no one in our great state is safe when our neighbors are targeted, ignoring the law and the Constitution. But prosperity is equally essential. Liberty alone is not enough if the government makes it impossible for you to feed your family, to get a good education, or to get a good job. So in this country, that shouldn't be too much to ask. But right now, all of it seems at risk. Governors have never mattered more.
But perhaps no election caught the fancy of the US and the world other than that of mayoral fight for the New York City. 34-year-old Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani has been elected mayor of the New York City, defeating political heavyweight Andrew Cuomo and defying fierce attacks from conservatives and even President Trump himself. Trump has labeled Mamdani a communist and vowed to cut funding for the city in response to his ascension. Adding to the misery of the grand old party was the decisive mandate given by the California voters to redraw its electoral districts. Interestingly, in California, voters approved a ballot measure to allow the state to redraw its voting district maps to make a handful of congressional seats more favorable to Democrats in the 2026 midterm elections, another blow to Donald Trump. The effort was spearheaded by California Governor Gavin Newsom, who is considering a White House run in 2028. President Trump, meanwhile, refused to shoulder any blame for the losses, posting on Truth Social that pollsters, not policies, were to blame. The sweep gives Democrats a powerful boost heading into next year's high stakes midterm elections, where control of the Congress will once again hang in balance. With Aarti Rana, Tanvi Taneja for DD India.
The European Union on Wednesday struck a deal on the 27-nation bloc's next big emissions reduction targets just ahead of the UN's COP30 summit in Brazil. After intense negotiations and several concessions to hesitant member states, EU climate ministers approved a plan to cut emissions by 90% by 2040 compared to 1990 levels. The agreement, however, includes some flexibilities, drawing criticism from environmental groups which call the deal a missed opportunity. Ministers also endorsed a related 2035 target, which will now be presented at the upcoming UN Climate Summit. They also agreed on a related 2035 target to bring to the UN Summit, which EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen trumpeted as good news as she arrived in the northern Brazilian city of Belém for the 10th of November till the 21st summit talks. It's been exactly half a year that Germany got a new government under the leadership of Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and full of promises for reforms for the country's struggling economy. But a new survey says experts aren't happy with what happened since. Lars Holters with Deutsche Welle and joins me from Berlin. Good evening, Lars. What can you tell us about this latest survey?
Thanks for having me. Well, it's sad, but the survey gives Germany and the German economy pretty much bad marks all around. Mohamed El Arian is one of the top economists at Deutsche Bank, and he says that the risk that Germany is further losing ground to the US and China is very high. Another economist for DZ Bank, that is Germany's second biggest lender, says that the positive momentum that we've seen earlier this summer has gone and that we're in a phase of resignation with investors becoming impatient. Now, for some context, when the analysts are saying that the mood was better in early summer, that was pretty much when U.S. President Donald Trump started a trade war with much of the world and when he threatened to withhold funding from universities. That is when many in Germany and in other EU countries as well had high hopes that companies might move business from the U.S. over to, let's say, Germany, and that maybe German universities could attract talent that didn't want to deal with uncertainty in the U.S. However, all that never happened. That's according to Joyce Jange, a researcher for JP Morgan and also many others.
Well, in that case, Lars, what is the outlook for Germany then? Are things expected to improve?
Not really. That's the saddest part of all this. Like I said, investors want to see reforms. They want them drastic and they want them fast. And that doesn't seem like what the governing coalition is about to deliver anytime soon. Also, when it comes to business, investment, and especially trade, as soon as you're looking at Germany, you're also looking at the EU, even more bureaucracy to deal with and very slow processes. In the US and in China, things are moving faster for structural reasons. Also, Germany is just constantly under pressure, including right now with China unloading never-before-seen amounts of goods here, goods they can't sell in the US due to tariffs. So even with the biggest global economic troubles happening outside Germany's influence, the economy here still is suffering most. This week, there's more talks between the chancellor and his economic advisors on how they can move Germany ahead.
All right, that does not sound very encouraging. Let's hope that they have more in store which can be unveiled to ensure that progress is made on the economic front. Thanks for joining us for the moment. Lal Sotter from Berlin. Now, Ukraine on Wednesday secured enhanced partnership status in the UK-led Joint Expeditionary Force, or JEF, a coalition of 10 northern and eastern European nations. The agreement, signed in Norwegian city of Bodo, brings Ukraine closer to the group, which includes Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Norway and Sweden, all NATO members. British Defence Minister John Healey said the move sends a strong message reaffirming Europe's long-term support for Kyiv. The JEF was established in 2014 after Russia's annexation of Crimea. And Ukraine plans to replace its kopeck coins with new ones called shahs, shedding one of the last remnants of its Soviet past. The move, expected to be completed this year, aims to further distance the country from Moscow nearly 4 years following the conflict. The Shah, a historical Ukrainian term used in the 16th and 17th centuries and during the 1917 to 1921 revolution, will replace the kopeck, still used only in Russia, Belarus and Ukraine, among former Soviet Union states. On Wednesday, during the general audience at St. Peter's Square, Vatican City, Pope Leo XIV called on the faithful to remember those suffering from armed conflicts, especially the people of Myanmar, and to provide humanitarian support. Japan deployed troops to the northern mountains on Wednesday to track and trap bears after local authorities' urgent request, as residents of Kazuno, Akita Prefecture, have been advised to avoid forests, stay indoors after dark and use bells to deter foraging bears. Greek rice farmers, faced with droughts and lower prices, have now tapped a new revenue stream and selling their cheap broken rice to wedding goers instead of discarding it and using it as animal feed. Under a new initiative, a cooperative in northern Greece's Chalastra has sold over 3 tons of broken rice, rebranded as wedding rice, since May. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. DD India speaks exclusively to New Zealand Prime Minister Luxon in Auckland on strengthening India-Kiwi ties. And the largest supermoon of 2025 rises over Australia's iconic beach, that is a Bondi Beach, in a rare celestial event.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we decode Astra Mark II, why it is India's next generation air dominance weapon, what makes this missile a true game changer. We analyze the force multiplier in the sky, India's mid-air refueling aircraft, and their critical role in sustaining air power. Finally, the infantry soldier gets a much-awaited close-quarter battle carbine, which is compact, precise, and built for decisive close combat. We decode the army chief's words, preparing for the unknown. What does it reveal about India's evolving war-fighting mindset? Catch the sharpest analysis of strategy, firepower, and future warfare this Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Gautam Roy. Now, India and New Zealand are aiming to turn dialogue into tangible trade outcomes. India's Minister for Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal's visit to Auckland had him discussing key points in the free trade deal. DD India's Soumya Sharma has had a talk with key leaders and has spoken with New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon as well on the trade agreement outcomes.
From New Delhi to Auckland, economic diplomacy is taking center stage. Today, at the Auckland Business Chamber, Minister of Commerce and Industries in India, Mr. Piyush Goyal, joins in a dialogue for the fourth round of negotiations for the free trade agreement between the two countries. Let's take a look. The first round of summit had Mr. Goyal join New Zealand's Trade Minister in a dialogue discussing prospects of the agreement.
But what I do want to ask you is, we're so small, is there nevertheless, putting the trade aspect to one side, is there a strategic, is there a geopolitical aspect to this trade deal for you as Indians?
The important thing is intent. The important thing is whether the small population of New Zealand can benefit from the large market in India. And one of the important elements of a free trade agreement is a signal to the world that the friendship between two nations is strong. There's a strong element of trust. There will be certainty and predictability in policy.
The second half had the New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon join Mr. Goyal and Mr. Todd at the Mahatma Gandhi Centre addressing the Indian diaspora.
Namaskar, Sat Sri Akal, Assalamu Alaikum, Kia ora, Kula Vanaka. It is good to see you all here this evening. Can I say thank you for coming out? We really appreciate it. Can I just acknowledge first and foremost my good friend Minister Goyal, and I can tell you when Todd and I go around the world and we get to meet lots of different leaders, we have a lot of fun with Minister Goyal. He's the one we look for because he brings the energy. He takes his job seriously. He's a really tough negotiator. Everyone in the world wants to deal with him, from the Americans to the Europeans to everybody. So when he said he's coming to New Zealand and he got off the plane at 1 o'clock this afternoon, I said to my team, I want to be there. I want to come and see him because he's my friend.
The friendly relations and mutual admiration was palpable as the leaders exchanged warm embraces on multiple occasions. Welcome to DD India, sir. Can you tell us how do you see India as a strategic partner in strengthening New Zealand's economic resilience?
Well, India is one of the most consequential countries on the planet, and it's becoming the third biggest economy in the world. It has a huge defence responsibility as well to make sure there's peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. It connects many different parts of the world, the global south, the west, east. It does everything. And so for us, it's a huge opportunity to work together. Equally, we think New Zealand has lots to bring to the party to add value to India, and we think India has a lot to bring to the party to add value to New Zealand. And really our goal is to make sure that we lift incomes and create jobs and opportunities for the people both in India and New Zealand by working together in a better way.
Right. And beyond trade, what areas do you see New Zealand and India collaborating on?
Major focus on defence and security, because we don't have prosperity without having security in the region. And the second area is really around our people-to-people links. And what we find is that New Zealanders love Indians, and the Indians seem to love the Kiwis. And as a result, we get to know each other, we get to understand each other, and from there, the conversations happen around trade and investment and flows of capital and information as we get to know and understand each other. So we want to keep encouraging that too.
With a renewed momentum towards a comprehensive trade agreement, today's engagement only reaffirms India's position as a key player in the Indo-Pacific region. This is Soumya Sharma from Auckland for DD India.
External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar has said India and Japan have agreed to work closely to implement the joint vision for the next decade cooperation between the two nations. Addressing the 8th India-Japan Indo-Pacific Forum, the minister said that both the nations have more responsibility towards the Indo-Pacific. He added that the bilateral relationship responds to the changing global scenario, and that is reflected in the deepening of cooperation across multiple domains.
Maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific is a stronger imperative, but also a more complex challenge. Our bilateral relationship responds to the changing global scenario, and that is reflected in the deepening of cooperation across multiple domains. The recent conversation between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Takaichi, as soon as she assumed office, is testimony to the priority that we both attach to it. The visit of Prime Minister Modi to Japan in August significantly laid out the joint vision for the next decade. Its 8 priority pillars and the investment target of 10 trillion yen over the next 10 years are useful metrics to assess our ambition.
Vice President C.P. Radhakrishnan attended the Lakhpati Diti Sammelan in the Indian state of Chhattisgarh, praising the initiative of empowering women through entrepreneurship and self-reliance. He emphasized that women-led development strengthens families and the nation. The event celebrated the achievements of women transforming rural livelihoods and grassroots democracy. At the event, VP Radhakrishnan witnessed inspiring demonstrations of women-led social initiatives, including assistive devices crafted by Divyangjan. He praised their leadership in public welfare, resource management and community development. Further, the Vice President inaugurated a new 5-story facility at Udyachal Health and Research Institute in Rajnandgaon, Chhattisgarh. He praised its mission for a cataract-free society and community healthcare. Governor Raman Deka, Chief Minister Vishnu Dev Sai and Speaker Dr. Raman Singh were also present throughout the event. The 556th Prakash Gurpurab of the founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, is being celebrated with religious fervour throughout the country. Devotees have been pouring in at Gurudwaras, paying obeisance to the revered Saint Guru Nanak Dev Ji. The Rakabganj Gurudwara, located in the national capital, is bustling with devotees singing devotional songs, offering ardas and participating in langar services. Delhi Chief Minister Rekha Gupta and Parliamentarian Anurag Thakur visited Harimandir Sahib Gurudwara to offer prayers. Both the leaders gave their greetings to the devotees on the occasion. In the holy city of Amritsar, divine Jal Sahib illumination adorned Shri Darbar Sahib on Saint Guru Nanak's Prakash Parv. The Golden Temple complex is abuzz with hundreds of devotees thronging the Gurudwara to offer prayers and to enjoy langar. And the Gurudwara in Rajasthan's Dausa has also been decked up beautifully to mark the celebrations. On the occasion, Shabad Kirtan is being held along with a special langar fully prepared by women devotees. Let's now turn to sports, and the International Cricket Council has confirmed disciplinary actions arising from the India-Pakistan fixtures, with sanctions imposed following hearings by the Emirates ICC elite panel of match referees. Pakistan pacer Haris Rauf has been handed a 2-match suspension for breaching the ICC Code of Conduct during the Asia Cup in Dubai in September. Rauf had come up with multiple provocative gestures during the Asia Cup clashes. India's Suryakumar Yadav was also fined 30% of his match fees and 2 demerit points. Suryakumar Yadav was accused of making politically charged remarks after snubbing handshakes with Pakistani players. Also, Jasprit Bumrah's actions in the final were also sanctioned by the World Cricket Governing Body with 1 demerit point as well as an official warning. Australia on Wednesday announced its 15-member Ashes squad for the opening test match against England in Perth this month. Steve Smith will captain the team, replacing the injured Pat Cummins, with Travis Head as his deputy. 3 players, batsman Jake Weatherald and bowlers Brendan Doggett and Sean Abbott will be making their Test debuts, with Weatherald, a contender alongside Marnus Labuschagne, to open with Usman Khawaja. All-rounders Cameron Green, who returned recently after back surgery, and Bo Webster will both don the baggy greens alongside wicketkeeper Alex Carey, with Josh English as his reserve. Fast bowler Josh Hazlewood, spinner Nathan Lyon and seamers Mitchell Starc and Scott Boland round out the squad. And that's all we have for this edition of DD India News Live. Keep tuning into DD India to find out the latest on what's happening in India and around the globe. But before we go, take a look at how the biggest supermoon of 2025 lit up the sky over Sydney on Wednesday evening, shining brightly as it rose above the Australian city's iconic Bondi Beach. The moon is considered to be a supermoon when it's closer to the Earth than usual, making it look much larger. While the moon does not grow in size, Wednesday's moon is the closest of the year, making it appear the biggest.